Hello, third year students. The title of this lecture is The Dreadful Deliverance. In the previous lecture, we traced the events of the disastrous voyage of Robinson Crusoe, or the last voyage of Robinson Crusoe, and its tragic end. Of course, in his last voyage, Crusoe and his friends are on their way to Africa. They are presented to us on their way to Africa or to Guinea to bring Negroes, but they fail to be there since they are attacked by a tornado which causes the destruction of part of the ship. To avoid being drowned into the sea, Crusoe and his men decide to leave the ship and sail by a small boat. But they couldn't reach the land safe since the high waves overturn the boat and separate them from one another. And Crusoe is left alone. After a violent struggle with the sea, Crusoe has succeeded to reach the land. Let us complete reading the narration of Crusoe to see what he is going to do after his survival. Students, would you please open your books on page 36. I walked about on the shore, lifting up my hands, and my whole being, as I may say, wrapped up in the contemplation of my deliverance, making 1,000 gestures and motions which I cannot describe, reflecting upon my comrades that were drowned, and that there should not be one soul saved but my soul. For as for them, I never saw them afterwards or any sign of them, except 3 of their hats, 1 cap, and 2 shoes that were not fellows. Crusoe, who finds his way to the land, seems exhausted and shocked. He realizes that he is the only one who survives the disaster. His comrades, the seamen, are all drowned. Crusoe is left alone on this remote island. He finds nothing of them save some of their hats and shoes. Now he is deeply suffering. After I solaced my mind with the comfortable part of my condition, I began to look around me to see what kind of place I was in and what was next to be done. And I soon found my comforts abate, and that, in a word, I had a dreadful deliverance. For I was wet, had no clothes to shift me, nor anything either to eat or drink to comfort me, neither did I see any prospect before me but that of perishing with hunger or being devoured by wild beasts, and that which was particularly afflicting to me was that I had no weapon either to hunt and kill any creature for my sustenance, or to defend myself against any other creature that might desire to kill me for this. Students, as you see here, Crusoe continues narrating what he is suffering from, of course, here. He says that after being recovered from the shock caused by the loss of his comrades, Crusoe starts looking around him to see what kind of place he is in and what should he do next. Crusoe, of course, discovers that his deliverance is very dreadful, which means that he is survived, but this survival is unpleasant. He is not satisfied with it because he is alone on this desolate island without food, drink, clothes, and even without a weapon to defend himself. This makes him be very afraid and anxious. In a word, I had nothing about me but a knife, a tobacco pipe, and a little tobacco in a box. This was all my provision, and this threw me into terrible agonies of mind that for a while I ran about like a madman. Night coming upon me, I began with a heavy heart to consider what would be my lot if there were any ravenous beast in that country, seeing at night they always come abroad for their prey. In the eyes of Robinson Crusoe, his survival seems horrible, since he is without a provision save a knife, tobacco box, and a pipe. Night comes and it increases his agony and fear. He should find a shelter to sleep and to feel secure. He cannot sleep in this unsecure place without having a gun to defend himself. If he might be attacked by anyone or any beast, what he is going to do? Students, we are still discussing page 36. All the remedy that offered to my thoughts at that time was to get up into a thick bushy tree like a fir, but thorny, which grew near me, and where I resolved to sit all night and consider the next day what death I should die, for as yet I saw no prospect of life. I walked about a furlong from the shore to see if I could find any fresh water to drink, which I did to my great joy, and having drank and put a little tobacco in my mouth to prevent hunger, I went to the tree, and getting up into it and endeavored to place myself so as that I should sleep, I might not fall. The anxiety of Robinson Crusoe leads him to spend the night on a bushy tree. Crusoe here is dominated by the idea of keeping himself alive and secure, which shows the human nature of man when he confronts danger. So Crusoe here prefers to sleep on a bushy tree to hide himself from the eyes of wild creatures. Crusoe continues his narration, saying, "But when I came to the ship, my difficulty was still greater to know how to get on board, for as she lay aground and high out of water, there was nothing within my reach to lay hold of. I swam round her twice, and the second time I spied a small piece of rope, which I wondered I did not see at first, hang down by the four chains so low as that with great difficulty I got hold of it, and by the help of that rope got up into the forecastle of the ship." Crusoe realizes that there are a lot of things he should do. He should supply himself with necessary provisions. Therefore, he swims towards the ship to bring these necessary provisions. Page 38, please. By this means all her quarter was free, and all that was in that part was dry, for you may be sure my first work was to search, and to see what was spoiled and what was free. And first I found that all the ship's provisions were dry and untouched by the water, and being very well disposed to eat, I went to the bread room and filled my pockets with biscuit and ate it as I went about the things, for I had no time to lose. I also found some rum in the great cabin, of which I took a large dram, and which I had indeed need enough of to spirit me for what was before me. Now I wanted nothing but a boat to furnish myself with many things which I foresaw would be very necessary to me. Being on the board, Crusoe finds that all the ship's provisions are dry and untouched by water, especially the food section or the food part. So he starts collecting food and drinks to get them out of the ship.